Hi there, and thank you for tuning in to The Social Circus, where every week we dive into a variety of topics covering social media, mindset, and how to run your business. I hope that you enjoyed today's episode. Hello there, and welcome to episode 95 of The Social Circus. I am your host, Sarah Thomson, and today I'm doing another solo episode where we're going to talk about the lessons I have learned from being in business for 13 years. So over the month of March, I'm going to be doing mostly solo episodes, and I'm going to be having a look at the lessons that I've learned from being in business, things that I would do differently, and I will be sharing also a little bit about my 50th birthday, because I'm turning 50 this month, which is kind of exciting and terrifying. And last week I kicked off my kind of month of Sarah with an episode which I have to say thank you to you all, has become one of my most downloaded episodes, where I shared my own personal journey with endometriosis. So if you haven't listened to last week's episode, can I please encourage you to go back and listen to it? I will be really honest and say it is not particularly business related. I share my journey with living with endometriosis, and I talk about what that's been like as a business owner and as a human being. And I would really encourage you to listen to it, and encourage everyone in your world to listen to it as well, because March is Endometriosis Awareness Month, and I'm trying to get the message out there so that we can raise awareness of this disease, help people understand it, and help get earlier diagnosis, because it takes so long for people who have endometriosis to be diagnosed because of the lack of information around it. So today I'm going to be talking about things that I would tell myself when I started my business 13 years ago. And I'm going to be doing a bit of an honest chat about things, because I think a lot of you know me as the Sarah now that presents to the world as someone who I have a very strong business acumen. I tend to make good decisions. I definitely make lessons that are not always correct, but I tend to make pretty good decisions. And I wanted to share what I would tell myself 13 years ago, Sarah. So for those of you who are not aware, I started my business 13 years ago. And again, my story is not a fabulous one, because I definitely wouldn't advocate this for anyone else. I worked in corporate marketing, and I found the job incredibly demanding, as one often does. And part of the job in marketing often meant I was in charge of events. So I tend to work late in the evenings, often having early morning breakfast meetings. And all of that was really hard. So at the time, my children, who are my son is 16 and my oldest one is 18. So they're big grown-ups now. But obviously 13 years ago, they were just my little babies. And at the time, I was really, really struggling. So I was struggling with coping with the demands of being a mum with two young children. My husband had his own business as well, and that was a fledgling business. So that was like pretty full on, like he had lots to do inside that business. So that was really interesting. And then on top of that, I was trying to have this demanding corporate career, which was not going really well, if I'm honest. And I just decided I couldn't do it. I was really, really struggling, and I felt like something was going to give, whether it was I wasn't going to perform in my job, or my marriage was going to give up, or I just felt like I wasn't present for my sons at all. And so I made this very impulsive decision, and I say that without any amusement in it, because it was really, truly impulsive. And I just quit my job. And I really naively thought, because I had so much experience in corporate marketing, and I'd done comms work and all sorts of things, that I could just become a consultant. And I had worked only a couple of years prior. I'd lived in the UK. I worked as a freelance consultant there, and the work was plentiful and the money was great. And I thought, oh, that's what I'm just going to do. I'm just going to freelance, and then I can pick and choose the gigs. I can do a big chunk of work and then have a little break. And I didn't do any research into what that looked like in my hometown in Perth, which is a tiny city compared to London, for example. So that was what I thought was going to happen, and it did not, if you're wondering. So I spoke to so many people, and I suddenly realized that small businesses don't employ marketing consultants. They don't really do marketing if they can avoid it. And remember, 13 years ago, digital marketing is not what it is now. So it was a pretty tough lesson for me, because I thought this was going to be a really easy transition. I thought this is going to work out really well for me. And I spent a couple of months floundering around. I did support my husband in his business quite a lot, which was great, because I love, one of the things I always to this day enjoy is helping business owners improve their systems and processes and all that kind of thing. So I love diving into that. And
I had been attending a networking group as on behalf of my husband in his business. He had an IT business. And the networking group that I was at, I spoke to lots of people there. And one of the ladies there, I said to her, I want to just be a marketing consultant. And she turned around and said to me, I would pay you to help me with my social media. And I was like, oh, I can do that. I had done that in my last role. And I knew that social media, even 13 years ago, was just marketing on a different platform. Okay. So I didn't kind of feel any trepidation that I didn't understand it. At the point, it was new to everyone. And so my business was born, and it traded without a proper name for over a year. So I just called myself Sarah Thomson Consulting. My husband's business was called Blue Man Computers. So I think I called myself Blue Man Marketing just to not have to have some branding, which is hilarious considering how feminine my business name and my branding are now. So I didn't really have a name. I think it was September the following year. So like 18 months after I started my business, Online Social Butterfly was born as a business name. And so many people always ask me, how did I stumble across that name? And really practically. So any of you who know me in real life know I'm a total social butterfly. And my husband, he and I sat down one day and we just said, I need a proper name. I need to trade under something that seems authentic to me. Sarah Thomson Consulting or Blue Man Marketing, neither of them resonated at all. And we actually spent hours and hours, and it was as simple as looking for the domains that were available. And Grant loved Online Social Butterfly. It was his idea, my husband, and onlinesocialbutterfly.com.au was available. And there was no business registered under that name. And so Online Social Butterfly was born. So it was nothing more, what's the word? It wasn't a really well-devised strategy, and it wasn't something that we labored over. It was just a practical, is this domain available? Does it resonate? I love it. And the interesting thing is now I still love my business name, Online Social Butterfly. It still feels really authentic to me. It still resonates with who I am and what my business does, which is a great sign because I've sat with it for a long time and I've never got bored with it. So one of the things I would tell myself if I could wind back the clock was, don't quit your job, do some research and see what's available out there, because I think that was really hasty. And to be fair, it absolutely made me have a business that succeeded because of the financial pressure that I was under. So I didn't really have a choice to fail. I had to bring in money. We had to pay our mortgage, all of those kind of things. So it was really important that it succeeded. And I guess having no fallback, i.e. a paid salary, probably made that really highly motivating. But I would also say to myself to be a bit more judicious in how I chose my clients. So in the early days, my business I didn't really know who my ideal customer was. And the reason for that is really simple, is because I didn't really know what I was doing. I started my business thinking I was going to do marketing consulting, and then I started offering social media management. And under that banner, I used to set up people's Facebook pages, do their social media content, write it, schedule it, all that kind of thing. So, and that was how I built my business, was on the premise of those services. But at the time, I also said yes to lots of other things that weren't really my zone of genius. So I said yes to doing people's blogs for them, which that was really a big thing back then, doing their email marketing and their newsletters with their blogs, and a whole range of services, I guess, spans the gambit of digital marketing in what that looked like 13 years ago. And I didn't realize, because I was under financial pressure to earn money, that I should be making more decisions about what it is that I am doing. So it took me quite a few years to realize that I get to shape my business. And so when I realized that, I started to look at, am I enjoying this service? And if I'm not enjoying it, what I then want to do is not offer that as a service anymore. So it took me quite a few years to realize that that was totally within my power to do that. So what I wanted to do, if I could talk to myself 13 years ago, is say, it's okay if you do stuff that you don't love. That's totally fine. But what I do want to do is focus in on what do I love and what makes me happy, and putting those services out into the world more. And I think a lot of us feel like, oh, I have to do that because that's what I'm known for. I have to do that because that's what people are paying for. You do sometimes, okay, and that's totally fine. But what I want you to understand is that you can shape and grow your business. So if you're offering a product or service in your business at the moment that you do not enjoy, start to ask yourself, am I promoting this too heavily? Am I relying on it too much? What else can I be doing that I really, really love? And it took me many years to realize that I could do whatever I wanted in my business. It took me so long to realize that. And it's really funny. Many of you know I work with my husband, Grant, and he says to me all the time, because I have quite bad workaholic tendencies, and he says to me all the time, you so love what you do. You love your business. And I always think to myself, of course I do. I shaped it based on what I enjoy doing. And so now I have this business that I love. I have a beautiful mastermind of women that I love interacting with. I have a low-cost membership. I have, one-on-one coaching clients. And then I have a whole suite of online courses. All of those things bring me joy, okay? And the things that I don't love, I stay away from doing. And at the time back then, I thought that also, because I was pretty great at marketing generally, that I should offer all marketing services. And again, coming back to that, what do I love? The other thing I should look at was what was I good at completing? And so one of the things I have definitely learned over the years is what is my skill set? So I now know if I'm working with a client, I can show up in a coaching session and bring my amazing self to that session. But if a client says to me, when we're not together, can you do this or can you work on this for me? The answer is always no. And the reason for that is simple, is I am terrible at completing work outside of coaching. I'm terrible at completing work. I have in the past been paid quite a lot of money to write communications plans, to write strategy, and I might deliver a workshop and then have to write the plan. It all falls over when I have to write the plan because I don't like doing that work in my own time. So in some ways, I'm not self-motivated, or is something about my personality that doesn't enjoy that. So I now know when people ask me questions, I'm like, I don't do that kind of work. And I know why I don't do it. It's not because I'm not brilliant at it. It's because I know that I'll be rubbish at the delivery of it. Okay. So looking back 13 years ago, ask myself, what do I enjoy? Ask myself, what am I great at? Okay. That's a really good question to consider, is what am I really good at? And, there's some really good books. If you're not sure what that is in your business, there are some amazing business books out there. One of my favorites is The Big Leap. And I love that book so much because it helps you understand what is your zone of competence, your zone of excellence, and your zone of genius. And I now know really clearly that pretty much everything I do in my business is in my zone of genius, which is exactly where you want it to be. But rewind 13 years ago, I didn't know what that was. So I would tell myself, have some fun, play and explore, and pay attention to what you are enjoying, pay attention to what you are great at doing, and chase that, okay? Rather than saying yes to everything, doing a whole bunch of stuff I didn't like, and, working my way through life like that. So yeah, really, really interesting learnings along the way. The other thing I would say to myself is, don't be so worried about what your service looks like. Don't overthink your packages and all of those things. I would have spent hours and hours behind the scenes, like crafting my social media packages, deciding what my services were. And in truth, and like, I want you all to hear this because I know that there's some of you doing this as well. I do not offer a single service in my business now that I offered 13 years ago, not one, because my business has grown and it has evolved and it has changed over the years. But at the time, 13 years ago, I thought when I put myself out there and said, I do social media management, I do this, I thought that would define me from now to the end of time. And I didn't realize that my audience will come and go. I can grow and change. Things can evolve, and my services will do that too. So I wish I'd had more of an open mind and kind of gone, this could be a stepping stone, or this could be, this could be what I'm learning on my way to doing something that I really love. So having that kind of approach that I'm testing and trying things out, I wish I'd done more of that. And the other thing I would say to myself is stop angsting on your packages, and I think it's just procrastinating, spending so much time doing beautiful documents. In those days, it was in Word, and faffing about with that, when really what I should have been doing is spending more time pitching to clients. And anyone who's coached with me knows that I use this analogy a lot. And it's a really important one for you to hear, because if you have children in your world, you will know that when you do things like give them a Lego set for a birthday or for Christmas, I have two sons who are Lego mad, so we watch lots of this. You give them a Lego set and say it's a Lego Star Wars Death Star, and you're like, great, go and make the Death Star. And then they go and make the Death Star and it looks amazing. They've done a really good job of that. Then you look around and then suddenly Batman's in the Death Star, and, they've added a car that's from Lego Chima or something. And in truth, what they have done is they have played with the toys in a way that they love, okay? They have not played with it exactly according to the instructions on the box. And to be fair, that is kind of the point of Lego. And what that we can learn from that in our business is do not spend so much time thinking about what this looks like. Tip it out and see how people pick it up. So see how your audience responds to it, see what they like. They will tell you straight away, I really like that package, but you didn't include this. And the truth of it is, if we spend so much time angsting on how we put a package together, we're more reluctant to change it. Now, we don't want to build a business that becomes immovable and where we're so rigid in our thinking. So spend less time working on your packages, overthinking it, doing that. Put it out to your customers when you think, oh, this is pretty solid. I'm going to put it out as an offering and see what people say to it. And when you do that, it means that you're really open to the responses that you might get. So someone might say that, oh, hey, haven't included this in there, or have you thought about offering this? And when we are very flexible, it allows us to be nimble and make changes to the way in which we put our service offering together. Now, the other thing that I did many years ago in my business was, and let's just fast forward it, so it's not 13 years ago, but it's when I started Online Social Butterfly, that branded business name, which I think, oh my gosh, I don't want to quote the date, but I could probably look it up, but it's certainly 18 months after. So let's just say 12 years ago. When I started operating under that brand, I went very neutral. So even by that point, I had worked out that my ideal customer was definitely female entrepreneurs. All the work that I did, I found that when I pitched to women, they understood my value, they understood the importance of marketing. They were more likely to be a quick yes. When I worked with men, I felt like they didn't get marketing. They certainly didn't get Facebook marketing. And I felt like also they didn't value my expertise. And so I had to work really hard to get them over the line. And all the time I worked with them, because remember, I'm doing social media management, I was constantly justifying what marketing was as opposed to what sales was. And they became very hard clients. And it was my husband that said to me, I think you know better than this, Sarah. I think you know that those people are not your ideal customers. You need to stop saying yes to working with people who are not a good fit with you. So he spotted it really early on. And I guess during my evolution of my branding, so my first iteration of my branding was quite a strong purple. I then moved to, had it done by an agency, and I moved to green and blue, so super neutral, almost masculine. And it was probably, I want to say 8 years ago when my husband moved full-time into Online Social Butterfly. He completely overhauled my business and my branding. And he said, can we just stop with this neutral and can you just go all in pink? Let's have Online Social Butterfly branding redone. Let's go pink on the butterfly. Let's go all these colors, which are much more feminine. And he actually, at the same time as we had a rebrand done, overhauled my website and just leaned into a very feminine thing. And he said, you want to call out your ideal customer? I'm like, I know this. And I was like, I know this. But it was really good to hear it from someone else. And he really encouraged me to embrace all that Sarah is. So, you know, I'm a girly girl, but I'm a very strong feminist, and I'm allowed to be a contradiction. I'm allowed to be those things that I want to be. Having pink branding doesn't make me not a professional expert. It just means that I know who my audience is and I love it, and I know they will too. So I wish I could tell myself, trust your branding, trust your marketing instincts. You know better than that, okay? Because I think because I was a bit wishy-washy, it took me a while for my business to get up and running and really get the traction that it has today. So kind of a good, strong lesson from there. One of the other things that I would say to myself, and I don't know if it would make any difference, but I guess because I had worked in corporate for many, many years, when you're in corporate, you're not told to trust your instincts. You're not told to listen to how do you feel, what does that, what's going on. You just show up and you do the work and you do it to the best of your ability. When I started my business, I wish I had started to do more of that discovery into myself, to trust my instincts and to ask myself, does this feel right? Does this feel aligned? Does this feel like it's a good match for who I am? And it took me, again, many of you who know me now know that I'm very good at that sort of thing. I'm very aligned with my values, aligned with my intuition and my instincts and what feels right in my business. But back then, I had spent so long in corporate suppressing that I didn't have a clue that that's what was going on. So I didn't listen to it. And as a result, I made some mistakes that in my gut I knew were wrong before I made them. So I now, when I'm coaching with clients, I often talk about, well, what does your instinct say? And I've had a few people say to me, I wasn't expecting you to be a coach like that. And I'm like, oh, I love the data and I love digital marketing and I love, ROIs and all that kind of things. But I also know that our intuition steers us in the right direction. And we have to listen to it and pay attention because it is there to protect us and guide us. And when you are sitting in a place not from fear, it's really sharp. And I'm now really good at paying attention to what does that feel like, what feels good and bad. And for those of you in my immediate network know, at the moment I'm working on a new company startup in the AI space. And a whole lot of that has been uncomfortable. Can I be really honest? Because I'm stepping out of my business a little bit into this new business and growing into that space. And it has felt uncomfortable. But through it all, my instinct has said to me, this is a really exciting decision. It's a really exciting growth opportunity. You're working on something that's going to help really make big changes in the world. It feels really exciting. So my intuition is a yes. Some of the practical steps along the way have been a little bit rocky, if I'm honest, and have felt like hard and difficult and uncomfortable, but I have listened to my intuition that this is the right decision. Okay. So I would say to myself 13 years ago, trust your instincts there. They're pretty good. And if you listen to those, you're going to make less mistakes along the way. So I wish I had done that. My final comment would be, and this is for many of you, I started my business many years ago because I wanted a break from corporate while my boys were small. I never went into it with the view that it was going to be a long-term thing. And yet 13 years later, here I am. At the time, I thought I'm going to do it for a couple of years. And when my baby starts school full-time, I'm going to go back to my corporate job and back to my successful career. So I didn't really, to start with, give my business the love and the attention that it deserved because it was kind of a stopgap. And would I do that differently? I'm not sure. But I guess what it meant was I had a foot in each camp. I was kind of growing this business, and I'm going to use the word little business because I hate that term when people go, I'm just doing this little business, and they marginalize it along the way. But I want to say I was definitely keeping myself small because I thought this just needs to give me a little bit of income till my boys are a bit bigger, and then I can go back to the big grown-up world and go back to my corporate career. I wish I could say to myself, believe in yourself, Sarah, because this is a really great business idea and it's really got legs. And if you go all in on it, it's going to grow a lot faster. So I guess what I would like to say to myself is believe in myself and back myself far more than I did, because I think that it hampered my growth in the early days and probably took me a lot longer to get to where I am now. So if I could rewind, I would say this is a goer to myself, and trust yourself because this is going to be really great for you and your family. So that is a little bit of an overview of what I would tell Sarah from 13 years ago about the business journey. I hope that some of my comments and insights are really helpful to you as my listener. And next week, again, I'll be diving into talking about things I would do differently in my business. So if I could change things, what would I do differently? Obviously, today was lessons I would tell myself. And next week, I'm going to be talking about what would I do differently, because that's been, again, some really interesting learnings along the way. So thank you for tuning into the Social Circus. I appreciate each and every one of you taking the time out to listen to my podcast. It means the world to me. And I must just finish by saying next month in April, I'm actually going to be celebrating 100 episodes, which I'm so looking forward to sharing with you some insights on that. So thank you for being one of my loyal listeners. I truly appreciate it. And I'll catch you the same time next week on the Social Circus.
Thanks so much for tuning in to the Social Circus. As your host, Sarah Thomson, I am thrilled that you've chosen to spend your time hanging out with me. I would be so grateful if you could spare an extra moment to go and leave me a review on your favorite podcasting platform. And if you even felt more excited, you could share my podcast with your friends who you think would get great value from it. Thanks so much again for tuning in.